What is up, beautiful people? Episode 107. I am so sorry. That is what happens when we are at my mom's place, and I do not have nearly as much control over the technology. I'm sorry about that, guys. Sorry for the false start there. I appreciate you, love, because you're a friend of mine, so you're just going to be like laughing along the way.
I love it. I love it. You said episode 100 and what?
17.
Oh,
it is episode 117. It's crazy, right? We've been doing this for a long time. I'm just getting this on Instagram. I literally put the post on Instagram being like, this is where we're doing, and then accidentally got deleted. So it's gonna be fine. It is what it is. We're here now.
Punches, okay? Good.
You're amazing. You are the best TC I know in the game by far, especially creative TC, right? So let's quick.
To say that I zelled you before this podcast to say
100%. But you're a really good friend of mine. Obviously, I've known you for years now, like 2 or 3 years when we met at that one time and that Phoenix hike. And yeah, you're an amazing part of Sub 2. This podcast, Skorch the Fears, it's all about getting over fears of starting, right? So before I ask the first question, we're going to ask the question number 0, which is, what's your business? Give me like a quick resume of what you do in real estate for the 0 amount of people who don't know who you are. We need to just give a quick resume of like what you do, what you've been doing, all of that type of good stuff.
I love it. Yeah. My name is Love Francis. I am a transaction coordinator. Although I now run a transaction coordination business where I have now, Jonah, I'm at 11 team members. So I'm not actively in the business. I'm working on it. And I'm working on scaling to end of this year. Hopefully we'll have 20 plus team members. And that's kind of the goal and plan, to achieve like the title of this podcast, getting to the 7 figures annually. So we met in Sub 2. That's the first real estate mentorship I joined back in 2020. And it's so crazy to kind of look at how far we've both come in our perspective journeys. And, just me, I started in Sub 2 not knowing a lick about real estate, not knowing anything at all. And I just had this big dream of wanting to wholesale and make money, and I definitely am not wholesaling now. It's completely different. But the dream is still there, right? The goal and the vision that I had at the beginning of it all, it's still a part of the journey. So I'm really excited to kind of catch you up on, everything that's been going on. And I would also want to hear about your business. I'm really excited for you.
100%. I mean, obviously, we're really good friends, so we've known each other for a really long time and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I don't even remember you ever wholesaling. I only knew you as a TC, I'm pretty sure. At least in my head, I completely forgot of you ever wholesaling. Like, I only thought of you as a TC, right? And the reason, and it's a good thing too, because you knew yourself, or you at least eventually realized more about yourself that wholesaling wasn't for you, right? I think a lot of people just get attracted to wholesaling because it seems like the easiest way to do it, but it's definitely not the way that's meant for everyone, right? Like, it just isn't, right? It was meant for me. It's meant for Munif, right? There's just a certain personality type for it, but it wasn't meant for every single person. So, Love, I think one of the best things you can give my audience today is like, why did you choose being a TC? And what makes a really good transaction coordinator, right? Like, why should someone choose starting a transaction coordination business versus wholesaling? And like, what type of person will be successful at being a transaction coordinator?
So I think for me,
and real quick, because I realized we never said it, what is a transaction coordinator?
Yes. So to define transaction coordination, it's essentially paperwork management, right? It's when it depends on what the TC that you're involved with, what their roles are, because each TC can say, hey, I want to do this and I don't want to do this. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing. But at Intentional TC, we help you with all of your paperwork needs from beginning to end, whether it's helping you draft it, and of course we have to it has to kind of be a joint venture because we're not attorneys. I'm not an attorney, but we help draft, we help open escrow. We'll guide you if you've never done your first creative deal. We're here to guide you and really show you what it looks like. You know, it can be very scary, it can be very overwhelming. There's so many nuances when it comes to the correct paperwork that you may need. What are the things you tell parties, you know, to make them feel comfortable? How do you answer their concerns? Creative TC is someone that can help you along the way in navigating, you know, the creative terms and creative transactions. And you know, for me, wholesaling just didn't work out for me and my personality. I am not made up to, you know, get yelled at and for people to say no, and the whole negotiation thing. It's just not in my wheelhouse. You know, like my husband, he gets excited about sales, negotiation, you know, talking to people, and that's just not me. Like I have my superpower, and that is connecting with people. And that's why, you know, what really also made me stand apart in the beginning from other TCs is because I'm really good at connecting with sellers. I'm really good at asking questions and making them feel comfortable, you know. And that's truly what stood me apart in the beginning is my ability to be able to walk them seamlessly through contracts, right? And make them sign the contracts while we're on the phone. And that's what kind of had that word of mouth referral. And that's kind of how I've established my business in the beginning. But like you said, Jonah, right? I came into real estate thinking I was going to wholesale because that's what's marketed, right? When Paige, Jamil, Brent, when they're talking about real estate, they're talking about wholesaling. That's what attracts people to the game. And I was a part of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's this easy to make money. All you have to do is call a handful of people and they'll say yes to selling their house, and then you just have to find a buyer, and then you get $5,000 to $10,000. Wow, that's easy. And you know, shortly after, you realize it's not all there is to wholesaling. There's way more,
Right.
and there's systems and their processes, and there's, you know, learning skill sets, there's learning sales, there's learning your market. And a lot of those aspects didn't appeal to me. And that's okay. And I think what is difficult for people is they think that one shoe has to fit all, it has to fit you, and that's not the case. You know, it's about trying multiple things, it's about trying what fits you and what doesn't, but also knowing that, you know, it's okay if what majority of people are doing, it's working for them and it doesn't work for you. It's okay, you know. And I think that's a beautiful thing about our community is like we have so many people doing so many different things, you know, whether it's creative, cash, whether it's gator lending, whether it's, you know, private money lending. Like there's just so many ways to make it. And I think that's what I just had to go through is just finding what that way was for me. And it took a while, but I also think I'm very fortunate. I kind of was in the beginning of the whole TC trend where it just, like,
100%.
you know, people didn't even know about it, right? And then when I was doing it in the beginning, like there were only like one or two TCs, so it was easy
The
to
exact same way with me and direct to agent. Like we were lucky in the sense that we started early enough in sub 2 where like we could claim certain areas. Um, Love, real quick, I
is
want to know
question. Is that all you're doing right now? Is this still direct to agent, or are you doing direct to seller or anything different right
maybe
now?
I also JV with wholesalers, but it's just direct to agent. I haven't done it. I don't done direct to seller in 2.5 years, 2 or 3 years, to be honest.
Beautiful thing, Jonah, right? It's like you
Right?
figured out what works and you're like, let me double down on this. Like I don't need to be distracted with anything else. Let me double down on this. And it's truly benefited you in so many ways. And I think it's so cool. Like I love it.
I think it's been whenever that happens, it's always, always, always better, right? Like this is a metaphor that I came up with. This is related to wholesaling and how people screw it up. You direct to seller, direct to agent. They try to JV with wholesalers. They freaking do Facebook ads. They do so many different things. But if they just stuck to one strategy, they'll actually cross the river they're trying to do. It's like you're trying to cross a river. You see Jamil successful. You see Pace is successful. You see Brent successful. What you do is you try to build Pace built a stone bridge, Jamil built a brick bridge, Brent built a wooden bridge, and you just built three third bridges. You built 3 half bridges, but so you don't cross the river, right? You have to focus in on something. So, Love, I really want to know, why TCing? Like, what do you feel like made you really good at being a TC that a lot of people don't have? And what would be the qualities of someone else when they should be a TC? Like, for the person watching who's thinking about it, what makes a really good TC?
That's a really good question. And for me, there's multiple aspects to being a TC, right? You have to be good at time management. You have to be good at attention to detail. You have to be good at speaking to people. You have to be able to communicate efficiently and effectively, and be able to, document and be able to set expectations correctly and in the right way. And one thing that I just excelled at in terms of being a TC, and this is what I told you about, is the whole aspect of walking through the documents, right? Making people understand such difficult type of transactions and difficult types of, realms within the real estate industry. And just being able to just take no for an answer, right? And just figure everything out. And I think the key part to being an entrepreneur is just trying everything until it works, right? And getting stuff to the finish line. And I think that's what people just loved about me, is I would do whatever, even me not knowing what the next step is, I would figure it out, whether it's calling 10 different title companies and 8 of them not answering, and one of them saying, hey, this is illegal, and then the 10th one connecting with someone who has the answers, right? Like, it's just that perseverance. And I think I'm going to be truthful. Like, I'm not the best TC. And that's why I hired people, right? I hired people who have better skill sets than me in different things, right? Like, my team members, when I'm hiring people, I look for people who have traits that are better than mine, right? And that's what I want to build my team around, is people who have complementary skill sets and who also have skill sets that I may lack, right? And being able to build that, and also realizing that there was a demand for it, and knowing, like, hey, even if I can't see myself being a TC for the rest of my life, I know that there's a demand for it, and I know I have what it takes to build what people need, right? And being, again, like we spoke about, at the right place at the right time, having the right information. And that's what helped me. And just focusing on that one thing. And Layla Hermosi says this, where it's like, and you kind of talked about it right now too, where in order to get to $1 million, you don't need to be doing a million different things, right? Just focus on the one thing, have one strategy, have one method of service, and then have one avatar. You don't need to be doing all the other things, because you're not going to end up reaching your goal. And I think that's the theme of this, right? And that's what's also going to help me reach the 7 figures, is being able to, I'm now, because my business is solely based on referral and word of mouth. And that's how we've been able to scale, right? And now, in order for us to be able to reach a different level, is now I'm adding different methods of marketing, right? Now we're going into the Facebook ads. Now we're going into different strategies to be able to hit different avatars, and that's where I'm at right now. I know that's not what you asked, but it kind of.
So I'm really curious. That was even more interesting answer than I thought, though, because what you just said was, I'm actually I'm not the best TC, right? But you started a TCing business, and you knew you could start a TCing business. So that's super interesting in a very different way, right? What was it that you saw the opportunity, and then you're like, you know what? I'd just rather make money this way, but I'm going to hire a bunch of transaction coordinators immediately, right? And therefore, I can start a TCing business without me being a TC, but I see the need for it, because there wasn't like this whole TC wave that I think Pace started with. I forgot, what's the name of the educational program? You probably remember the name of it. Top tier TC, right? There wasn't that. No, it wasn't thought of as like a business model that much, right? Because Pace wasn't doing it. So, um, I guess my question is then,
So I will,
why teaching?
so I was doing TC even when I realized that I was burnt out and that I
Hmm.
didn't have a drive for it anymore, right? Like I was still doing it because I'm like, I'll do what it requires to learn this. Like I'll do what it requires to get these transactions to the finish line. I'll do what it requires to learn this so I can be better at it because even though it at a point I was burnt out. I kind of didn't have the passion for it anymore. I still saw the demand, right? And I was willing to put those feelings aside to then be like, okay, I know something is going to come out of this, and it's all based on the demand. It's all based on seeing how many people needed this service and knowing that there weren't enough people to be able to provide this service, right? And it wasn't until I got pregnant, Jonah, was when I'm like, man, I need to be able to fully remove myself and I need to be able to bring on more people because in the beginning, my first hire was someone at 20 hours a week and they were just admin stuff, right? They were doing
Hmm.
like the organization of the drop. It was just admin stuff. And I was still doing majority of the work until I got pregnant and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just can't do this anymore. Like not only the burnt out, but like I was so sick, I was like throwing up for the first 2 trimesters. I couldn't be on the phone. I couldn't be behind the computer. And I had to really learn to delegate and being okay with things not being done maybe the way I would do it, but knowing that it's going to get done and it's going to get done at a higher capacity than I can at where I was at that moment, right? And that's what really started the vision of like, oh my gosh, I can really grow a team and it can be people not in the States, it can be people in anywhere in the world and really being able to find people who I can bring value into their life, but then they also bring value into this business, right? Where there is a demand and where I know that if we continue to just put our heads down and create better processes, create better systems, this business will continue to grow, right? And right now, like it's going to be, it's we're not just going to do creative. We're even venturing into just cash, right? With agents, like that's a new venture that I want to tackle within the next like 6 to 8 months, right? So yeah.
I love it. I love it so much because it's so interesting, right? How do you how do you keep pushing yourself when you're burnt out? Because that I think is very hard. I like love. I think you're an amazing TC. You're the best creative TC by far, right? In my opinion. I don't know. I've dealt with some and they have no idea what the hell they're doing. Um, but it's interesting the way you're describing it, where it's like actually, because do you feel like you're more of an integrator or more of a visionary?
I'm definitely a visionary,
I had
but
a feeling, and usually TCs are integrators.
yeah,
So
I'm also an integrator. I have very strong integrator skill sets as well.
everybody has a little bit of it, but I feel like you are also more visionary. I sense it too, right? I'm pretty good at reading people now, but I would say the most interesting part is because a visionary will get burnt out by straight up doing the TC work, right? That's a lot of operations, a lot of COO type of stuff. Um, how did you push yourself through that, and how did you how did you expand it? Like, did you just hire a bunch of integrators around you? Like, did you know how did you know what's interesting too is how did you know how to scale the TC business? Um, but really, let's stick with the original question. Like, when you were in that point where you're like, I'm burnt out right now, I am not happy with this. How do you push yourself through it? What kept you going? Was it like what? How do you do that? Because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people are in this audience right now, and they have no idea how to keep pushing yourself through it, even if you're in like the thick of it.
I think my desire to learn and my desire to continue on with my why was bigger than me feeling burnt out. And my obligation to people, right? If like I like, at the end of the day, the deal has to move forward, right? Like no matter if I'm burnt, like I can just I just can do that. I can just push aside those feelings and just like do what is needed. And what helped me is when I first started to hire people as well, right? Like I mentioned, the first person I hired was admin, right? And I think that what I would recommend to people is when you are bringing on someone and you want to hire someone, like have them focus on everything you hate, have them focus on the things you hate the most, right? And with TC, yes, it's a lot of operations, but a lot of it is also speaking on the phone, setting expectations, I just lean towards that. I would, instead of the whole email, text message, I would have an admin do that. But the phone calls, the bigger conversations, the I need answers, that I need to set expectations, that I need to be able to move this deal to the next level. And all it takes is phone calls and connecting with people. Those things actually fuel me, that brings me joy and I'm able to do that. But the whole, like the panda doc back and forth, the organizing Google Drives, and like I just don't have the patience for that, right? And my first hire was someone who would handle that, and would take care of all of that. And that's what helped me, truthfully. I was able to bring on something when I was reaching that burnt out phase. And they were able to then take a few things off of my shoulders that I completely hated, that I just couldn't do. And I would still focus on the money making activities, right? I would still focus on the things to get us to the next level. And that's been my mind frame behind hiring people, is what can they do to be able to take something else off of my shoulders, off of my back? And what complementary skill sets do they have, or that I can push. And I'm also really good, Jonah, at reading people. Like when I interview people, I'm really, really good at knowing what someone's strength is, reading their energy, being able to tell, like, are they a good culture fit? Like I can just easily tell just within the first interview. And of course, I'm not going to hire someone based on the first interview, right? But it tells me a lot. And that's what I would recommend to people is when you're burnt out and you have enough to be able to hire someone, even if it's part-time, have them focus on the things you hate, and for me, I also realized that, like, I'm in this long term, right? Like even now, I'm not doing the TC stuff, but I'm very much involved in the day to day, right? And the daily meetings and the holding people accountable and the operations. Like that's why I still consider myself an integrator, is because I'm heavy on the operations. Like I'm an operator. That's that's what I want to get really, really great at, is being even a better operator. And it's just it's changed, right? The focus and what I'm doing now has changed. But yeah, I'm still even more involved now than in the beginning, because we're doing more volume now, right? Things are more required. We're expanding. We're offering more services, So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I love the fact you guys are offering the negotiating of arrears. I'm so happy you guys are doing that. If you guys weren't doing that, I feel like it'd just be so annoying. I hate doing that. I just want to keep moving on to the next seller, right? Or the next agent.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Just for clarification, guys. So when you're calling the lender, you're not really negotiating the arrears. You're calling the loss mitigation to find out the different strategies they have for that loan, right? They can do a loan modification. They can do partial claim. They can defer the arrears. So there's multiple solutions that lenders have for each borrower, and you just have to call and position yourself in a place of authority and see what those services are. Okay.
And that's why you hire Love and you don't hire Jonah, because I'd call the bank and be like, look, I'm trying to buy this subject to. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but your goddamn arrears need to go down by 40K for me to be able to buy this thing in cash flow. So you guys get your money and I get my money, right? That's what I was going to do, right? But obviously Love knows all the fancy lingo that I have no idea to actually make that happen. You know what I mean? So anyways.
Did you hear about that? Did you hear about the deal though? Like what's going on? Like
which deal? My deal or a different deal?
Yeah, your deal.
Sort of. What's going on? What is happening with my deal? I mean, it's kind of my deal. It's also Tyler, so I only slightly know. It's something like she's suing her husband, right? Or something like that.
Crazy. Yeah. And so I thought also the agent is the seller's the wife of because the husband is who you guys are working with, right? Essentially.
No, no, no. We're working with the wife. We're working with the woman.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. So yeah, Tyler has to do some talking to the agent
What
still.
Tyler told me was that Tyler has to talk to the agent. Right now, the seller is suing the her ex-husband, which is like a big issue. So the issue is like if there's a suing happening, apparently you can't do loan mods or anything like that while that's happening. They've already tried it. They tried it before even talking to us. And we were like, yeah, there has to be a loan mod, basically. Like we have to get these arrears down, otherwise you can't sell this place. And right now the seller's debating what to do. So that's yeah, that was what Tyler told me, I
Yeah,
think.
because Mariam got on the phone and we didn't even know that they. Did you know that they tried a loan mod before? That they tried a call?
That's
Or
what Tyler told me. I had no idea. I didn't know they had ever tried that.
yeah, I mean, truthfully, though, all like once they do have an answer, we can just call the lender with the seller and get to the bottom of it. It's like a quick call to see their options, you know. But yeah, they still have to contemplate on how to
There's a
proceed.
lot happening with that deal. That deal is a nightmare, but we can we can get into it. But um I want to go back there. We're already 27 minutes in, and I haven't technically asked you the first question I always ask on this podcast, which is pretty funny. So, Love, let's go back a little bit. Let's rewind. Let's go into the past. Let's go to Love right when she's starting in real estate, right? Because this podcast is called Skorch the Fears, right? Um, it's called Scorch the Fears, and the reason is it's all about getting over fears, especially for newer investors. That's like the main thing that I want people to get out of this podcast, as well as knowledge about real estate. But I don't think people talk about fears enough. So, Love, real quick, when you were just starting out, what were your fears when you were like just starting out getting into real estate? What were you afraid of? And how did you overcome those fears to be the successful entrepreneur you are now?
I laugh at that because there were so many of them. Where do I start? Like there was nothing that wasn't a fear, Jonah. You know, everything was a fear. Like I remember in the beginning, even finding out, right? Because how I heard about real estate was literally through it was the Wholesale Inc. podcast. And I went through, I heard Jamil first, and then I heard Brent, and then I heard Pace. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, this is so amazing. And lo and behold, I found out that they live in Arizona, which is like my backyard. I'm like, this is so crazy. And I just started to find out all the meetups that they were a part of or that they were hosting. And even like, let's start at that. Like, even going to the meetups, Jonah, I would like drive by myself and then I would drive back home. I wouldn't even get down to go to the meetup because I was like so
Oh
scared.
no.
I was so scared. I had like I'm like I'm an introvert at heart, okay? Like in my soul, I'm very introverted and I had such intense like social anxiety where it was so difficult for me because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like that whole imposter syndrome, you know, where it's like I don't know anything about this field. I don't know any of these people. Like I've never been I didn't grow up in a family who had businesses, who were business owners, who were in real estate, none of that, you know? And all of these thoughts went into like, man, I don't deserve to be here. You know, I don't deserve to be here because I don't know anything about this. And that's the number one BS thing that your mind tricks you, you know? It's like you deserve to be in every room you're in, you know? You deserve to learn about ways that can change the trajectory of your life. You deserve to be around people who uplift you, who have more skill sets than you, who can help you and answer questions for you. Like you are deserving of that. And I think that's the number one thing that people should learn right away is telling themselves that they're deserving of everything that they're getting into or that they're learning, you know? And in addition to that, you know, like starting real estate, going into wholesaling, right? Like not knowing anything about that. There was fears there. Um, there are fears right now, you know, like
So wait, let's
I
let's
mean,
slow down. A little bit. I want to get into the fear of going to the meetup and like just going there and then turning around, right? Because that's a simple one, right? Like I want to start with like the basic ones, and we'll get into the other ones too. Don't worry, but I want to go one at a time. So with that fear specifically, like how did you overcome it? What did you do?
So on like the third meetup, it's just a pep talk, right? Of like, just go in, just go in. And even if you don't talk to anyone, just go in and stand in the corner like a weirdo and just go in. Okay. And that's what like, and I did. I went in, and just by telling myself, like, I don't even have to speak to anyone. I just have to go in and just exist. And when you go in, right, of course, people are going to reach out and talk to you. Like, people in these communities are so nice, they're so friendly. And yeah, that's how it is. It's just having that pep talk of like, there's nothing there that can scare you. There's nothing there that's gonna like, no one's gonna kick you out of the space. You don't know anyone, but no one has a list of hey, you love Francis can't enter, right? Like, it's realizing that my fears were all just in my mind. It's my limiting beliefs of just because I haven't been in these spaces, I'm not going to belong in these spaces. But that's so false. Yeah, I think like I hear a lot about that, people not putting themselves out there, right? Or when they join these mentorships, of them not reaching out to anyone because they these fears resonate within everyone, right? Of like, I'm new to this community. I've never been here before. I don't know what I'm doing. These are all common fears that we as humans, like, we have when we're trying something new. And um just knowing like it's okay. I think that's a tip I would just give people is, yeah.
I love it. No, and it's true, and it's not real, right? It's just like no, even if you did stand in the room and act like a weirdo, nobody cares,
Yeah.
right? Like you could be there, right? Sorry, you could be there, and you could be there in the room, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't, right? Nobody actually is very much paying attention to you. Most people are just paying attention to themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I want to give that little piece of advice too for that one. So let's go into more fears because I like that you had a lot of them. Some people say they just weren't afraid at all. I'm like, all right, well, this is a boring podcast then. Like, God damn
Oh,
it.
really?
A few people, like some
Oh,
people, right?
wow. How cool. I mean, that's
Yeah,
cool.
maybe it doesn't matter. But um, so let's go into the other one. So what did you say after that again? Remind me. It was like that one. What was the fear? What was the other fears you were talking about, especially at the beginning? Talking
Yeah,
to sellers? That
there's
one?
wholesaling, yeah, calling sellers, calling agents, and I used to do that, right? I would force myself. Again, I'm someone, although I have all these fears, I'm still down to try. Like, I would I would set up ringless voicemails, I would answer calls, and I didn't know how to have all of that is scary, like pulling leads, not like, what am I doing? What you're doing, what? You're going to a database and you're what? Like, even finding out how to do all of that in the beginning, if you're alone. And um I'm someone, although I was a part of, I wasn't, when I was trying the wholesaling, I wasn't in sub 2 yet. I just got into the free Facebook group and I was just learning about wholesaling, right? And I would do the things, I would pull the leads, I would set up ringless voicemails, I would cold call, expired listings. I would do all of these things, even though I was shit scared out of my mind. I don't know if I can cuss. I'm sorry, but I was really, really
Is it?
scared, and I would still do it. And after doing it, I realized, man, like, this is actually not for me, because like, it just didn't bring me joy. Like, I was miserable, and it's okay to realize that after you try something and you do it a handful of times, and maybe for me, I didn't try it for the needed time. Like, I know they say you should try something for at least 90 days before you quit it, all of that. Within like 45 days, I'm like, yeah, this whole selling thing is not for me. Okay. And realizing that is okay, and pivoting is okay, right? Like, all the things is okay, and it's just not giving up is not okay. That's the only thing that's not okay.
I think it's more than just not okay. I think it's actually required, right? I think it's actually required to deal with your fears, to deal with pivoting. I feel like I pivot majorly at least once a year somehow, right? That just keeps happening to me where like I have to, okay, we're going to pivot here. Okay, we're going to pivot here. right? Pivoting you need to do to keep up with the market and to just keep up with understanding what you need to be doing, right?
How did you pivot last year?
Last year I pivoted by getting a business partner.
Mm,
This year I'm pivoting because we're breaking up now. So like that's like a big one, right? But that's huge. Those are two huge pivots in very different ways, right?
yeah,
Um, it was definitely worth it still in the end. I
yeah,
think as a visionary, I got way more out of that in some ways than he got out of being the integrator. But he got a lot out of it too. And there are just different issues, right? And it was something to try out, and it was definitely worth it. But there are many different ways of pivoting. I'm pivoting now in the sense that I made most of my money in California. I'm mostly focusing on Colorado because I'm not as into making wholesaling money as I am into owning more real estate. And where I want to own it is Colorado, right? So I'm focusing more in on Colorado, even if I've made a lot of money in California. Because the thing is, I know my system will make money everywhere. It will work in every single market, my system of direct to agent, every single time. I just know it. I've done it. I've seen people get deals with it in different markets. I've gotten deals randomly in different markets. I was like pivoting to Florida for a little bit and I made like 20K there, right? Like it happens, right? You can do it anywhere. It just depends on what you want, right? And what you're good at too. Um,
so now with
how
in Colorado, so you're just going to focus on direct to agent, but you're keeping it in your portfolio. You're not going to be like wholesaling in
I will
Colorado.
also be wholesaling. I wholesale cash deals and I do creative. It's just the thing is in Cal when you're dealing with Bay Area and Sacramento, it's very the landlord laws suck.
Yeah.
B, um, everything's so expensive it's impossible to cash flow. Well, landlord laws are pretty good in Colorado, and also it's easy to cash flow or easier, right? Depending where.
Yeah.
So I just like it a lot more, right? Um,
Wait, do you have any rentals in Colorado so far?
I have a few. I got two.
Nice. I love that for you.
Yeah, which is cool. Um, Small timer compared to some of our friends, but it is what it is. You
Hey,
know how it is.
let's
I'll
let's
take it.
let's wait a year or two. We'll see where you're
We'll
at.
see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, so real quick, let's talk about how you found out about TCing, how you ended up choosing TCing, because when did you started your TC business, what, 2021,
End
2022?
of, yeah, end of 2021. Yep.
So
Um,
that was like, people don't understand, like back then, TCing in the sub two community wasn't like a thing at all. So how did you decide on it? How were you like, this is a good idea, right? Like how did you make those decisions and how do you know it was right for you? Because you even said you may not be the best TC, but you could grow that type of company, right?
Yeah. So it started with Pace. It started with our mentor, dude. Like he had his TC company and even before that when he was like, "Yeah, I have a TC doing my deal. She deals with the paperwork, blah 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 blah." I'm like, "What is this?" Like I'm so interested. I'm so intrigued. Like I just want to find out more. And that's how I did is Zooms is through trial and error. It's um sub two is how I found out about it, but how did I learn it and how did I navigate it is just by truly trial and error. Like the sub two videos helped, and me just I don't know. I knew the flow of sub twos. But I haven't closed a deal, a sub two deal, and coordinating it until I started to just TC it for people for free, essentially. And that's what you have to do sometimes, right? And this is what I tell new TCs when they come to me as well is like, do it for free, like I know you said that you have a few creative TCs and they don't know what they're doing. And like I just would hate in the beginning to charge people for something I didn't know how to do. So that's also what ignited the burnt out Jonah is I would do so many things for free in the beginning, because I just wanted to learn. And at the end though, like there were deals that wouldn't go through because the negotiation wasn't right or there wasn't buyers found, and I would just feel like I'm doing all of this work and not seeing anything out of it. And now that I look at it, I'm so glad I did it for free. I'm so glad I put in those hours to learn because there's no better teacher than that. But yeah, like it's just by doing things for free and asking people who do know how to do these deals, right? I would be like talking to all of like the top sub 2 investors doing a bunch of deals, just asking them questions like, hey, for innovation, when you come across this, what do you do, and then I would go and apply it to innovation that I'm dealing with. That's how I learned in the beginning.
And then, like, what made you feel like you would want to be a TC? Like, what was it? What was it like versus like wholesaling versus like anything else? There's like a million different business models. Why were you like, yes, TC, that's gonna be it? Just what about it?
I actually didn't. I didn't know that.
You
I
were just
just
like, I'm just
knew
gonna try it out.
I'm something about it because it's like behind the scenes. You don't have to be on the phones as much. You don't have to do the tough conversations. Like that appealed to me because that resonated with my personality, but it wasn't something that I knew was going to be what resonated for me, and that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I didn't have that realization, and now it's turned into something different where I want to build this company to be able to be sellable in the future. Like, I just want to do that because I just want to tell myself I can do it. And then in addition to that, I want to build an infrastructure for team members where they can see themselves growing and thriving and be able to make the most money that they've made in their life through this company, right? So that vision has changed, but in the beginning, I didn't know. I didn't know that TCing was going to be for me or that it was going to be something that I found passion in. It was just like wholesaling is not working for me right now and it's not bringing me joy. Let me try this.
I like that so much because that's so necessary for a lot of people, love. Like, I don't know if you know how necessary that is. I got lucky. Wholesaling was personally for me, right? Like I had a feeling I knew it would be a good business model for me. But I really like how you're saying it's like it's not like you have to have it figured out. It wasn't like you had like some special thing where it's like, yes, that is the one, right? You were like, I'm just gonna try a bunch of stuff until something works. And that was TCing for you, right? And so for the people on here who are thinking about being a TC or like just don't like wholesaling or want to try something else, 100% do it. I did that too. Like I tried out a fix and flip and I'm like, this is trash. I don't know why people do this. And this is nonsense, right? I guess it would make sense if you want to go out and build the contractor team and all that. But I'm like, dude, that takes way too long. It'll take me 5 more seconds to just close another deal, right? Because I just know I can do that, right? Um, so let's talk about real quick, like, let's talk about you were starting going to start getting into the fears you're dealing with now at your level in the business. So explain a little bit about what your level in the business is. Like you said, you have 11 team members. What are they doing for you? And then talk about the fears you're dealing with now today.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we are at 11 team members now, and half of those team members are TCs. And of course, within the realm of TCs, we have people who are subscription specialists, we have an escrow specialist, but their role is still as a TC. And I've been adding diversifying team members in regards to, like, I hired, do you know what a scrum master is, Jonah?
No clue. What the hell is that?
So in translation, it's like an auditor, like someone who is in charge of quality control, right? And it's for our internal team to just be able to hold people accountable. And with TCing, there's so many different things you have to be on top of in terms of keeping everyone updated, and in regards to also getting updates from the correct people and sending updates to the correct people, and making sure that HOA docs are ordered, and making sure that we got the payoff from this weird lien, and following up with them if they didn't answer the first 5 times. You have to follow up with them, and then getting your loan authorization approved, you have to send it in. It takes 5 to 7 business days. You call in again, they didn't receive it, you have to resend it, you have to follow up. There's just so many moving parts, right? And so I'm just adding new roles to be able to just hold our internal team accountable. And I just actually hired someone for HR, and I'm really excited about that. And someone to come in and really, really help with our onboarding materials, when it comes to new team members, someone to highlight team members, and to be able to celebrate anniversaries, and someone to just really be on top of the satisfaction of the team, right? Because as I'm growing and as we're doing more, it's really about the people who you're bringing in to take on the roles and to be in these specific seats. And it's really important to me that I make sure that they're happy and that they're happy to be here. And that's what I'm focusing on right now is making sure that our clients are happy, hence us bringing in an auditor, and then also, with HR, someone to be able to make sure that the team members' emotional being and their satisfaction levels are okay. And we're creating, right? The whole goal is to be able to build this out so it's sellable. So I'm just reverse engineering that. I'm reverse engineering, making sure our processes are very defined, are very, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed. But in the beginning, this is what I want to tell people. When you're starting out, like, none of that matters. Okay. Like, none of that matters. If you hire someone, you don't need to have your processes defined. You don't need to have all of, the SOPs, all of the shiny stuff. Like, that's not important. You don't, like, for your first few hires, that's not important. If you're bringing people on, like, having them on a Zoom recording and shadowing you doing your day to day, and so they can take it over, you can start off with that, like, where I'm at now, like, I don't also want to discourage people. And if you're a new TC thinking that you need to get to this level of, hey, I need to hire my first person, I need to be able to make sure that they're okay, and that, I'm celebrating their anniversaries and all of that. Like, none of that is important right now, like, um, yeah. But that's where I'm at, Jonah. That's where I'm at, is just being able to build this company to where it's sellable, and doing everything in reverse engineer.
So let's talk about that real quick. You're building everything so that it's sellable. For people that what does that mean? You
Yeah.
know? I think
Yeah.
I know what that means, but, like, I might not even know what that means. What does that mean to build a company so that it's sellable?
Yeah. So what that means is getting the right people in the right seats, right? Like, do we have consistent sales? Do we, is our gross income, is that hitting the mark every single month? Are we, do we have diversifying sales methods, right? If we do, we have, like, for example, where we have a subscription model, right? We have our one-off clients, we have our like loan modification services, right? Those are all different types of services that we offer, and that helps the ability of the business being sellable in the future, and making sure, your finances are correct, are intact, making sure that your CRM and there's systems and processes and everything has a flow to it, right? That's what I'm working on right now. And just making sure it's again, bottom roll is consistent, is consistent. Like I talked about, a big part of our business was word of mouth and referral. That is not a sellable business, like
Right.
having something that is just, hey, month to month, it changes, month to month, it varies. That's not sellable. And that's why, hence, we're putting in the efforts for, the ads, and do reaching out to different entities and establishing a subscription model, right? Like, that's where the focus is right now.
I like it. So let's talk about what are the fears you're dealing with now? Like you mentioned them. Hope you're willing to talk a little bit about them. What are you afraid of right now? What's like the thing that you're like, damn, I gotta overcome this mountain now?
This is where it ends. I can't talk about this, okay? I can't talk about the present. I'm kidding. No, as you're growing, I think it's the responsibility of more and more people on my shoulders, and like, it's truly just that. It's not knowing the future, and also having so many people that rely on you, and making sure that you're growing in the way that can support so many people. And I think it's all, again, it's all internal. it's all fears that I'm putting on myself, but it's fears nonetheless. You know, it's feelings that I'm going through. It's it's mainly that, truthfully, is yeah, having so many people rely on you, and wanting to bring on more people into that infrastructure. So then, you know, that fear increasing. But despite all of that, it's still exciting for me, right? Like I have these fears of like not knowing, you know, if something's gonna pan out, if something's gonna work out, you know, but still knowing that I wouldn't be in any other position than this. Like that fear of oh my gosh, you know, you're responsible for 11 plus people. It's also such an encouraging thing for me. It makes me want to wake up every day and show up in the best way possible, and be able to develop myself continuously, and to just strive for better, right? Because I have so many people relying on me. um but yeah, those are my current
I
fears.
love it. I love it. And then what what do you feel like is the biggest problem in your business, or like what's the biggest challenge right now, right? I really like asking people this because guys, here's why I'm asking this question to Love. It's like if you're watching this podcast right now and you're able to solve this for Love, you will be able to make a lot of money, right? It's something that I'm going to start adding into these podcasts is I'm going to ask these high level people, what's the biggest challenge you're dealing with? Because I always get the question, and I bet you get it too, Love, is like, how can I help out? What can I do? Right. And all that type of stuff. And it's like, that's great. But
Mhm.
instead think creatively about what's their biggest challenge. So right now, real quick, Love, like what's the biggest challenge in your business?
Yeah. Facebook ads. That's Facebook ads, digital ads, you know, that's my biggest challenge right now, is figuring that out, and learning the things. Munif, my husband, my awesome husband, he's actually pioneering that, figuring that out. But I want to put more energy and intention behind learning more about it, and seeing like what does it require to like make it work more efficiently and smoothly, because we're it's a lot of trial and error right now, is all I can say, and I
I
want to
like it.
get better at that.
I like it. Yeah. So guys, if you guys know how to do Facebook ads, you guys can make a lot of money because Love's looking, and I already know she'd be willing to pay if you actually have the actual solution to that,
Heck yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I wanted that to just be real quick. So Love, we're starting to get to the end of the podcast. There's one last question I always ask at the very end, and that's this. Um, if you were to start, if you were to go back to Love Francis, when did you start in real estate? I didn't even ask that. I'm sorry. When was your first,
20
like, when did you,
2020, when I like, yeah, the beginning of 2020.
so the beginning of 2020, if you could go back to Love at the beginning of 2020, what would you tell Love then, knowing everything that you know now? What's like the one thing that you would tell her?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Keep going. Just keep going. It ain't over. Keep going.
That's what you would say at the beginning? Like you haven't even started yet, and you're just like, you better
Yeah,
keep
keep
going.
going. Yeah. Yeah. So then, if,
I like
because
that.
in the beginning though, like you have so much, um, you just have so much like desire to do the things, right? You're so excited, like the possibilities are endless, and short after you realize how hard this shit is, you know? So like if I told myself in the beginning keep going, I would then remember that when I'm experiencing the hardships, or experiencing like, oh my gosh, I didn't know about this, and just keep going, you know,
I
keep going.
love it. I love it so much. So guys,
What would
um,
you tell yourself in the beginning, Jonah?
what would I tell myself?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I could tell myself, right? There's the answer that I like giving, which is that like in the end, I probably wouldn't tell myself anything because I love how the journeys ended up being anyways. In the end, I could have told myself many things. I don't know if I would have even listened to myself anyways. To be honest, because like to know the things that I know now, I would have had to do them on my own. Some of the things that I've screwed up, like Pace told me from the beginning, right?
But you had to
Some things
experience
Jamil told me
it
from the
yourself.
beginning.
You had to experience it yourself. Yeah.
Right? Like that's the hard thing for me is like with that question, it's in the end, I don't think I would have told myself anything because I'm here now and I'm here with this and I've learned so much and I can make money very, very not easily, but like I can always make money for the rest of my entire life, no matter what. So yeah, like I don't know. I like it.
Very
Um so uh Love, how can people reach you? You put your IG in here. We're like you. It's hard. You're getting cut off right now. But this is Love's IG. Let's say somebody wants to use you as a TC. Which, by the way, guys, I highly recommend it. She has by far been the best TC with keeping up with me on my escrows, making sure everything is done. She's one of the only TCs I trust. Like, okay, I really don't have to stay on you. You've got it. Like, you're going to make sure every single part is done because you're telling me what I need to do. That's when I know I have a good TC is when they're telling me, like, Jonah, you haven't done X, Y, and Z yet. What the hell are you doing? Where are we going to need to close, right? That's a really good TC. So also like just your Slack, your team, like I am insanely impressed. Like I don't affiliate with anybody, right? Like, cause guys, I affiliate. I'm just going to let you guys know, like, it just is what it is, right? There's a code you have to put in, and I forgot the code off the top of my head, which was stupid. I think it's Jonah ITC.
Yeah, Jonah ITC.
Jonah ITC. So first off, how do people sign up with you? Like if they want to try you out as a TC or use you as a TC or anything like that?
Yeah. So you go to intentionaltc.com and then you go to submit a deal. And there's a number on there as well if you want to reach out for any inquiries. We also have our inquiry email, inquiry@intentionaltc.com. You're able to email us and, we're very responsive. But if you're ready to submit a deal, just go to the website, intentionaltc.com, Jonah ITC, and you just hit submit a deal in order to put his referral code.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if you're getting value, I guarantee if you've got a creative deal, you 100% should put it in there. She's making it, she will do cash deals too, guys. Try it out. You will see how much better it is to do a deal with a TC than without a TC.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It is 10 times better having them handle all the paperwork and stuff. It's so much nicer. Right. And obviously, Love, you're a friend of mine, but also professionally, I don't let just anybody on this podcast. And the reason is because I was insanely impressed with the 2 or 3 we've done together. Right. So yeah, you're just saying it's pretty
And
awesome.
you're our only affiliate, right? That's how special you are to us.
Oh, am I?
You are your only one.
Holy Jesus. I didn't know that. Well, I better do a good job then.
No,
that's putting the pressure on me, Love. You didn't give anybody else an affiliate code. You didn't give a single one to anybody else. Jesus Christ.
No pressure. No pressure.
I didn't know that, but Love, you're amazing. What so also like even if they don't want to do it, where should they reach out to you if they just have questions or want to connect? Is it Instagram, Love the Investor?
Yeah, Love the Investor. Hit me up, okay? I'll respond to you.
Awesome. Cool. Everybody follow her on Instagram. Do you have a YouTube or is it just Instagram right now?
It's Love the Investor as well.
So Love the Investor on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok. She's got all the social medias. Hit her up. Love, do you have any last words before I end this?
No, thank you for having me on. I'm always so in awe of everything you're able to achieve. And you just look like you have it all balanced. And I know it may not always be the case, but
it's not true at all.
No, you do though. And yeah, I'm always learning from you, Jonah. So congratulations on 117, you said, right?
117 this is episode 117.
That's so amazing. That's so admirable. So kudos to you. And thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Guys, next week, it'll be normal time. We are always going to be at 5 p.m. PST now. I don't care who it is. They're just not coming on the podcast anymore if they're not coming on at 5 p.m. PST. I've been sacrificing that. And I'm like, you know what? No, you can come on if you can make this one time, right? Like I'm getting more selective with it as I grow in social media and stuff like that. So guys, it'll always be 5 p.m. PST. Actually, next week, I'm not 100% sure if there's going to be an episode because I have a wedding. I just
I guess
realized,
you're gonna say next week it's not gonna be
next week we're actually probably not going to have an episode, but the week after, we're definitely going to have an episode. I appreciate you.
PST, okay?
5 p.m. PST. So I appreciate everyone for coming on. If you, all the questions that were in here, I didn't have time for the question section of the show I've been doing, but reach out to Love. Should be happy to answer your guys' questions. That's it. That's Skorch the Fears, episode 117. Love Francis. Let's freaking go.